Buenas tardes para todos amigos and bienvenido para el Senate Chamber. Ko si Selena R. Babauta como maneja na comité y executive appointments and government investigations. Zau pago na ba hu introduce man members siya gini na comité ni man participa pago na talawani. Si Senator Donald M. Manglonia, Representative Luta, Guizay Chairman ni Fiscal Affairs Committee, gini giza gay Senate sa nilo naguma. Senator Corina L. Magofnia, Guiza mo maneneha i Resources Economic Development Program na komitea ginigi sanhilo na gumalokwe. Lokwe membro si Senator Paul A. Manglonia, Guiza mo maneneha i Public Utilities and Telecommunications Committee gi sanhilo na guma no si Senator Paul ma excuse pa go gin na hearing sa taigwe ginigi presente galami legislatura. Zalo kina be introduce para todos samzo i man manazuda zan man manasisisti gwini gini ni Legislative Bureau tat kumuya bud gadun mami si Senor Joe Bermudez i manasisisti lokwe si Senor Devin Macaranas i Sergeant at Arms si Mr. Ben Terlahi zani IT Manager si Senor Jonathan Diaz. Esta munazan todo inadapta i agenda gi eggaan. Lo zao na bay hu no muna fanungam zana no por favor na fan silensyo pago no i telefon midzo siya todos. I want to encourage everyone to please silence all your electronic devices today. I want to welcome and wish Miss Catherine Acto and Mr. Roland Johnson holiday greetings from your Senate. We are here this afternoon to vet the nominations of these two candidates for the Northern Marianas Technical Institute. Mr. Johnson was renominated on November 2nd, 2023, representing Saipan and the Northern Islands, the 3rd Senatorial District, and businesses in general. While Ms. Catherine Atto was nominated on October 26, 2023, not only to represent Saipan and the Northern Islands, but also women on the Board of Trustees for Northern Marianas Technical Institute. I now invite Mr. Paul Regis from the Office of the Governor and the nominees, Ms. Catherine Atto and Mr. Johnson, to please come and join us in the chamber. Mr. Regis's role in these proceedings are to formally introduce the candidates to the committee. Mr. Regis, you may begin when you are ready to do so.
Good afternoon, Hafday Antiro, Chairwoman Selena R. Babauta, and the honorable members of the Executive Appointments and Government Investigations Committee. For the record, my name is John Paul B. Regis, Special Projects Coordinator under the Office of the Governor. I am here on behalf of the Honorable Governor Arno I. Palacios and the Honorable Lieutenant Governor David M. Apateng to formally introduce Ms. Catherine Marie Atto and Mr. Roland Johnson, the Governor's nominees to the Northern Marianas Technical Institute Board of Trustees, representing the 3rd Senatorial District. At this point, you should have received Ms. Atto and Mr. Johnson's resume, which outlines their education and extensive professional experience in various notable fields. We believe that their qualifications make them ideal candidates for the position they've been nominated. Therefore, on behalf of Governor Palacios, Lieutenant Governor Apateng, we humbly request your support and favorable decision to confirm Mrs. Atto and Mr. Johnson as Northern Marianas Technical Institute Board of Trustee members. Thank you, Jesus Mosi and Giliso, for introducing Ms. Atto and Mr. Johnson to this esteemed body.
Jesus Mosi, Senor Regis. Zao pago na tababay piso ni Sanhilo Naguma para ta resibi no testimonio dan testigo para este dos na candidato. At this time, I will open up the floor for public comments.
I didn't think I was going to be first.
And please, if you wish to make public comments, I ask that you state your name for the record and the entity you represent so that we can properly record it. Thank you.
Buenas zan hafade zantiro, guahusi brad rosala, ginen saipan. But that's about as much tomorrow as I can do for you right now. I'm representing myself to speak on behalf of the candidates. Actually, I was informed more about. I was following the news, but I didn't know that you were also here, Mr. Johnson. So I'll start by saying a couple of things for Mr. Johnson. First of all, he's a trusted signatory at the school for Saipan International School for many years. He's been a leader in the community and he's nothing short of a legend. Somebody who's going to be working with their hands and learning a technical trade could only do better under the leadership of someone like Mr. Johnson at the helm of the NM Tech. But the person who I came here to speak for initially was someone who I referred to as many different terms. But here are some of the titles: chairwoman, vice president, board member, chair, coach, player, mother, sister, wife, and friend. She's been a part of organizations and still is Saipan Chamber of Commerce, the Commonwealth Cancer Association, Northern Mariana Islands Football Association, Pacific Century Fellows, Northern Marianas Technical Institute, and Team Chalampiao. I didn't know if she would think I would have that one. And she's also been a big part of many events like the Field of Heroes, the Marianas March Against Cancer, Marianas Cup. These are all major organizations, major events, and it only stands to that their success is because of quality people. And some of those qualities that Kat has: she's an excellent listener. She's empathetic. She's considerate. She's measured, composed, dependable, trusted, helpful, generous, giving, selfless. I've heard people use these words with her, and while she may be a little shy or embarrassed hearing these, this is what people talk about with you, Cap. Whatever the organization and whatever the role she plays in it, Catherine makes a difference wherever she goes. When I call her, her answers are, "Where do you need me? How can I help?" She's one of the first people there at the beginning, and she's one of the last people to leave at the end. And when you recommend her appointment, you could do so with confidence, knowing that she will serve the best interests of the students, the NMTI, and the CNMI. I look forward to your continued service to our community and to being your friend. Thank you.
Señor Rosala, Ginin Saipan. The floor is still open.
Good afternoon. I'm Rip Stephenson. I'm here pretty much as a private citizen. I know Ms. Satow and Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson and I go back about 30 years. We were on the SIS board together many years ago when our children were small. And I know him to be a tradesperson, and a trade school needs tradespeople to understand the technicalities of trades education. I also know Miss Satow. She was once a former student of mine, also a board member of NM Tech, and is a very dedicated and unique person. So I can't do anything but recommend both very highly. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I got your name right, Mr. Steffenson. Steffenson. Thank you, sir. The floor is still open. for public comments. If there are none, nobody else wishes to make public comments, I will now officially close that portion of our agenda, and we will move along with the next order of business. For the record, the committee has received letters of support from the following individuals: Ms. Jodina Attal, CEO of NMTech, for both nominees, Mr. Christopher A. Concepcion in his personal capacity, Ms. Hiroko Stewart, retired senior manager for Dow Chemical Company, Mr. Jerry Tan, CEO of Tan Holdings, Ms. Ta'an Kabua Dimapan, Ms. Carmelita Rabalaman Faisal, member of NMTech Board of Trustees, Mr. Zen Tamakani, member, NMTech Board of Trustees. The committee has received no letters in opposition of the nomination. At this time, I would like to ask both nominees to please rise and raise your right hand, and our legislative assistant will administer the oath to you.
Catherine Marie Atto and Roland Johnson, you do solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I will give each candidate an opportunity to make opening remarks to the committee if you so desire. And then we will start with Ms. Atto.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Babauta, Senator Magofnia, Senator Manglonia, and all the team here. It is truly an honor to be asked to serve on any board. Therefore, I'd like to thank Governor Arnold Palacios and Lieutenant Governor David Apateng for their confidence and support with my reappointment to serve on the Northern Marianas Technical Institute Board of Trustees. As I am grateful for this opportunity to continue to serve our community, I am more grateful for my family and friends who are here today to support my nomination. Thank you all. Hafaday Buenas Zentirowami. In January 2020, I came before this committee to humbly seek your support and confirmation in my appointment to this board. During this time, the transition of the institution from a private entity to public has yet to begin. Due to the pandemic, the process didn't start until August 2020 and ended in February 2021. With any transition comes challenges, but also opportunity. Opportunity for growth and a new identity. As soon as the Board of Trustees became official, I was with the 7 committee members, 2 of which were part of the Trades Institute Board of Directors. Although we all came from different backgrounds, one thing that stood out was the eagerness to keep the needs of the Northern Marianas Technical Institute a priority. With most of us being new to these responsibilities, and also the need to learn governmental processes because we were from the private sector, we had a meeting with the Attorney General's office in which we received guidance on understanding our fiduciary responsibilities to the Northern Marianas Technical Institute, more details of the Open Government Act, the Public Law 2092, and how important our role is in the HR 5956, the Northern Mariana Islands U.S. Workforce Act of 2018. As we continue to get oriented, as a team, we also attended the workshop from Mango that gave us a better understanding of a board structure and gave us ideas on internal processes. We also attended a workshop from the Office of the Public Auditor with the entire NMTech team. As a team, we continue to grow in our roles, establish board procedures that complement Public Law 2092, and that we respect the boundaries that exist with our responsibilities as board members to the Institute and where they meet the CEO duties and responsibilities. The blessing of this entire process was that each trustee understood and prioritized their fiduciary responsibility to NMTech, and this laid a great foundation for a new beginning. Another big task was to find a person who could be mission focused, passionate about the community needs and education. We're grateful to have found a CEO who fulfills these needs in her servant leadership ways. Now that we have a supportive board in place and a proactive CEO, we made efforts in building and establishing relationships with different stakeholders and government leaders, as the truth of our existence is that we only are a small piece, but very meaningful piece to this bigger picture of workforce development. As a community, we all know and understand how big this challenge is of fulfilling the Northern Mariana Islands U.S. Workforce Act of 2018. Approaching the last months of my tenure, our goal is to dig deeper into understanding our community challenges and bridging the gap that exists to meet this need. Through building relationships, we are grateful to see that much of our conversations and efforts have been part of a bond between our 3 education institutions and our continued working relationship with the Department of Labor. It has been about 11 months now that I've been away from NM Tech, so I know for sure I do not have any updated data. Our amazing CEO is always 10 steps ahead of us. So under her leadership, NM Tech has been accomplishing, under the leadership of CEO Jodina Atto, NM Tech has been accomplishing amazing things and being community partners in several community projects. I'm very proud that a year ago, we were able to have a graduation ceremony of 73 students of the former Trades Institute and 70 from the hospitality through the PSS Trading Up program. I am also very proud to share that I am a mother of a current NM Tech student. My daughter Teresa completed both culinary arts courses and is attending the current pastry and baking course while being employed at the Hyatt Regency Saipan. Throughout all my community roles of the Northern Mariana Islands Football Association Executive Committee member, the chairwoman of the Women's Committee, Saipan Chamber of Commerce Armed Force Committee, Pacific Century Fellows alumni, Kanoa Football Club vice president and coach, Marianas March Against Cancer Steering Committee, and most recently being a part of the CNMI Governor's Challenge Committee and the Rotary Club of Saipan. It is an honor, and I'm very humbled to be asked to serve a second term with the NM Tech Board of Trustees. I greatly appreciate your time and consideration in my nomination. Donkaluna Suzus Masi Giliso, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Atto. Ms. Johnson, Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry. You have the floor if you'd like to make any opening remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm a little bit embarrassed. I did not prepare anything. This is the first of these kinds of meetings that I've ever been a part of, even as an audience. Can I adopt her words? What do I say? In education, I was one of the group that founded Saipan International School, and I served on that board all the time that my children were going to school there. Board membership at SIS is limited to those that have children at the school. I was chairman of the board for, 10, 12 years. Actually, Rip Stephenson and I were co-chairman one year. I am by avocation a mechanic, a car mechanic, a boat mechanic. I am the Tohatsu outboard motor dealer here in Saipan and the Volvo Penta dealer here in Saipan. I don't know how far I should go in blowing my own horn here. I don't know a whole lot about NM Tech right now. Rip Stephenson here and I have talked a few times about the activity at the school. We share the opinion that the trade school needs to turn out, the trade school, NM Tech needs to turn out tradespeople, people who can fill the role of non-resident workers. And, you know, it has to start somewhere. I'm sure it's a big challenge. I look forward to tackling that problem. I'm afraid to say any more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. At this time, I will open up the floor for the other members to ask. I can go first if you guys feel like it. I'll go first. And this one is actually going to Ms. Atto. You are an incumbent member of the NM Tech. The cinema has been importing labor from elsewhere. What do you think is the greatest need for our Commonwealth right now in terms of people with skills in trade skills in particular? What do you think is the greatest need at this time?
I know when I was currently a board member, a large part of needs was really the construction area. I know electrical. I also know accounting is very much needed. A large number of CWs could be in the accounting field.
And while you were sitting as a board member of NM Tech, what was NM Tech doing at that time to address that need?
In addressing that need, so maybe 2 years of my tenure was when we were already established, right? And a large part of it for really as a board was to build a foundation of understanding what our place is in all this. We've as I mentioned, we've reached out to build relationships. We've met with Department of Commerce, Department of Labor, because we understand there is a survey to get us that information. I know when I didn't, from that, the relationship had grew after I had left with our CEO, who is now in the process of establishing like internships and apprenticeships in the different areas that's needed. So like I said, you know, a lot of stuff, it's been 11 months, and I know a lot of stuff definitely has happened during that time. And so that's the gap there that I really, that exists, yeah.
Okay, we're currently experiencing, including in the government, not just private sector,
Yeah.
but the government, CHCC, for example, has been severely impacted with the touchback issue. Are you familiar with touchback?
Yes.
Okay. Are you seeing any kind of opportunities? And I know you mentioned your daughter, in particular, is working at Hyatt
Yes.
while taking classes at NM Tech. But are you seeing any kind of significant and tangible opportunities for local companies to absorb the graduates that come out of NM Tech? We're not hearing, here at least at the legislature, we're not hearing that kind of movement going forward. And we just want to understand why.
Sure. Yeah, so I know prior to, there was a big push from Department of Labor to establish apprenticeship programs, right? Apprenticeship programs, reaching out to the private sector, I believe even to the government sector, on identifying the areas of needs, connecting them to NM Tech so they could get their certifications and then have them come out on the fulfill their on the job duties, their hours. And that was again, the momentum build up right when I was ending in January. So I don't know the progress that has been made from January until now. So I can't give you that information. I could get back to you.
Should you be confirmed?
Yes.
Yes, we would like
Yes.
that kind of feedback because it informs legislation here that we create. One of the things I've noticed is, MVA has been doing tour guide certifications. In fact, it's one of their divisions. They've created a whole division just to certify local tour guides. Why isn't NM Tech doing that?
To certify local tour guides.
Tour guides. Isn't NM Tech?
NM Tech
Uh,
more is from a trades standpoint. The way I am understanding that program you are talking about that is going through, I think the certification is through NMC, is more of a historical understanding of the different sites of where these tour guides are taking our tourists. So I believe that's that venue that they are getting their certification from. I believe it was like probably the last year of my tenure when there's been a lot of meetings with our CEO and then PSS commissioner at the time, Dr. Ada, and also NMC president, Dr. Galvin de Leon Guerrero. And it's really exciting to see what they're all coming about. I think anytime a new program starts, it takes time to nurture and ensuring that all three establishments are also on the same, understanding to support that program.
Mhm.
And so I right now I think it's very much in their infancy stages, but hopefully soon the momentum will build up where we could see the results of their partnerships.
And I bring that up because just this morning we heard from another candidate for MBA
Yes.
board, Mr. De Leon Guerrero, Marvin
Yes.
De Leon Guerrero, and we look at their citizen-centric reports, we look at the transition reports, we look at other important reports on the agency that we are vetting candidates for. We all talk about how tourism is a main industry here. So that's why I brought that question up. But what is NM Tech's, or is NM Tech even considering their role in how they can play a big part in the tourism industry here? One was through the tour guide certifications. Perhaps they can work with MVA and NMC on that. It would be a proper venue to issue those certifications from NM Tech. But what is NM Tech doing about the tourism industry's lack of capacity?
Yeah, I could definitely get back to you and on that. And the reason why I say that, because I know one of the things that we've realized early on is that our role at NM Tech on addressing the workforce, the workforce challenges. There are so many other people working on the same thing, and what we've come to realize is we're best to align our resources versus having different programs to try and have the same outcome. And so I know that a lot of our effort has been doing that, has been done to build those relationships and partnerships. And so I know we also have a great community outreach. Let me see. Marketing and communications coordinator who's been out there and doing what they can to build the programs at NM Tech. So 11 months being away from NM Tech when they have wheels on, I mean, just constantly going. They're ever evolving ideas. I know we have a lot to catch up on, should I be confirmed, but I would be gladly to raise these concerns and bring them back to you to let the committee know where we are at. I'm definitely excited to learn more too.
I appreciate that. I will now shift to Mr. Johnson. I'm glad Ms. Sato brought up the reaching out to the other educational institutions. Mr. Johnson, not college is not for every person or individual. Some would rather prefer to go into a hands-on, like a trade school to learn and develop a skill that they're probably already venturing into or exploring. Do you feel that we should do more in terms of reaching out to high school students and capture those students who will be graduating high school and who do not intend to go to college? And if so, how would you go about promoting NM Tech to develop our own local workforces? What I'm trying to get at, build our own capacity here so we don't have to depend heavily on imported labor or deal with the touchback issue.
Mhm. I think I understand your concern. The it's a multifaceted problem. The one way would be to and I'm not sure the mechanics of this because I'm not so deep into the NM Tech program, but seems to me that some of the high school students would be better suited to attend NM Tech while they're still enrolled in high school for high school credits. That would be one way to introduce them to, fields that provides them with a trade or a skill that they can earn a living doing. It's also occurred to me that perhaps a focus on a 2-year program is too long. Maybe shorter sessions, maybe 6 months or 12-month sessions, so that people can more quickly get out into the working world and earn a living. Those are some thoughts that come to me. As far as promoting it, one issue that I see is it's not just about learning a skill, but it's taking pride in it, to be good at what you do and to feel good about it. And there's a real issue, I think, with blue collar work as opposed to so-called white collar work. And I might say it's a negative connotation that blue collar work is somehow less fitting, you might say. I'm not sure how you change that attitude amongst people, but amongst students. But that's the direction it should go, where a person says, "Oh, I'm a carpenter, and I'm really good at it. I'm really good at it, and I'm a builder, and I'm really good at it." I know I'm not giving fair shake to other programs like cosmetology, I think, yeah, and I don't know, the less physical programs, you might say.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate your perspective, having had no previous experience with or knowing anything about NM Tech, because we're here to learn as well. And I'm glad you brought up the participation of high school students at NM Tech while they're still in school, because that has been talked about previously. I think we need to expound on that a little bit more. Should you be confirmed, I hope you take that up. I agree that 2 years I don't necessarily agree. I don't know anything about the trades, but it may be too long. But I do agree with you that we need to start pushing out graduates so that they can start making a living as soon as they can. That's all I have for now. I will now recognize Senator Donald Minglonia.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to you, Mr. Johnson and Ms. Atto, for your nomination, and thank you for accepting the nomination. I guess my first question will be to Ms. Ato, seeing as how you were a trustee. Has during your time with NMTI, has there been any discussions with maybe OPM in terms of possibly requiring employees to be certified in a certain field in order to be qualified for like a next, like a higher pay level? For example, um, let's just take CUC as an example. You know, how some of them are hired as trades. Um, and so in order for them to meet the next level of pay or a higher pay or a higher step up, they need to meet or maintain or get a certification in whatever field that is. Do you know what I mean? Has there been any discussions in that sense of requiring certification of certain programs in order to, like how PSS does it, right? In order to become a from a standard to a professional or a basic 1 to a basic 2, is that has that ever been brought up?
When we started to identify the different stakeholders that we wanted to meet with, and they were on our list. Unfortunately, we didn't get to it because, again, that was towards the end of my tenure of us wanting to talk about that. But I completely understand what you're saying, because additional certifications would be able to give you a different like step or whatever in your pay. So yeah.
Yeah, and I do hope that's considered, because in order to, you know, recruit and keep highly qualified employees, we want to also encourage them to grow professionally. In addition to experience, try to build on their trades. Uh, and then my next question is for either one of you or for both of you. What is your opinion on requiring certificates in certain fields, such as like cosmetology? In order to work in any salon, you have to maintain a certificate in, I don't know, like the proper handling of certain chemicals and such like that. And this could be in all areas, whether it be mechanics.
I'm sorry. What's the question again? I'm
What
sorry.
is your opinion on requiring individuals to attain certificates in order to work in a certain industry, such as cosmetology, or mechanics, automotive?
As part of the graduation
As
requirement?
part of the employment criteria under, I don't know whether this could be under labor or NMTI or just a industry standard, that in order to become a barber or a what do you call it, manicurist or pedicurist, they have to be certified, um, and hold a certificate in that area.
Go ahead.
Having certification is extremely important. It's almost just like being able to have your diploma, right? Finishing high school or even your GED, right? Being able to have, a credential saying that I met this basic qualification. And I think once you enter the professional world, it's the same thing, right? You still need to have some sort of understanding, like Senator Babauta just mentioned, for safety, right? You don't want someone to come in and saying, "Oh, let me dye your hair," and they don't understand the chemicals, and you walk out bozo, right? And so, definitely certification is very important. And I think when Mr. Johnson here was talking about the need to get into the high school, I had the opportunity to visit Waipahu High School in Hawaii, and they are such they have an amazing system there, where once a student gets into ninth grade, they are already on a track, on a track of education, not only to get to fulfill their basic high school requirements, but also to get that hands-on requirement. So a lot of their high school graduates already graduate even with the AA because they're already into IT, they're already into criminology, they're already into, they have, it's such an amazing school. And so I do know the principal made a visit out here because one of the questions we posed is if they are in the same accreditation field as PSS here in Saipan, why can't we have that system? I grew up in the time frame where in 5th grade, I was learning to play band, right? We had the option to do band, woodworking, home economics, right? All those different trades at an early age, and I think it's important for those to come back. One of the things we talked about, and, I know CEO has been, with those relationships with our 2 education partners is having that come through. I believe it's the Trade Up program where we can start introducing that to PSS. I know the last couple summers, NM Tech had reached out to, I believe it was Tanapak Middle School. They had them come for the summer program. Their middle school program students come through and get that introduction. And so I think it's very important that even if, we know college isn't for everyone, but for every person who's entering the workforce to have that basic requirement, I think is very important. Yeah.
Thank you. I think my question is more on the sense where, the possibility of establishing like some kind of certifying agency or like a board to ensure that whoever enters a certain field has these certificates. So in other words, you can't work in a salon unless you have the necessary certificate in order to work there. And so do you think this is something that is feasible or should be considered in the CNMI? Whereas, if you wanna work in a salon or if you want to work in an auto shop, you have to have basic or certain certificates in order to even step in and practice or I don't know, be an apprentice. And so is that something that you think should work or can work here in the CNMI in terms of requiring individuals to have even the basic certificate in order to move into these fields?
Well, certainly it can be required, but I think the issue there is who requires it. Is it a legislative act that requires it? Is it a Department of Health requirement? Is it who determines that? But anything you can do to to increase the professionalism of things, and sometimes to make it a limited entry where not anybody can just hang a sign up and say, I'm a chiropractor, or I'm a pick a field, So if there was a requirement to be able to do something, and you got a diploma for that allowed you to enter that field, certainly that would, and I want to emphasize this, that you want to raise the pride in one's work. That's important. And so if there is a, I won't call it a degree, but and not even a diploma necessarily, but if there's a test method that you have to pass to be eligible to do a certain job, certainly that's good for it's good for workers' psyche, but it's also good for the public as a whole because they're guaranteed that the people who are doing that job have the skills to do it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, in a sense, and that's why I'm asking it, because if this is something that needs to be established through law, or I wanted to see, because NMTI not too long ago became a government entity, and so there's still a lot of things that are being discovered, and the board as well as the staff at NMTI are still learning or are still growing this program. And so if that is something that needs to be done in order to to set a certain level of professionalism and safety, then that's something that we can consider and that we should possibly mandate, is that anyone who wants to become again, anyone who wants to work in the field of cosmetology must meet a certain requirement. And if establishing an agency to issue these certificates, and that's hope, maybe that could kind of motivate more people to enter into the trades and get certified and start working in this industry to fill in the gaps that may come about with the CW ending in 2029, right? And so I don't know, is that something that you think should be considered in terms of requiring certificates before entering into these industries?
By
Or
all
are we
means.
at that point
By
yet?
all means, it should be. It should be something to hey, again, make the public feel confident in that person that's doing that hair dye does it correctly. The guy who's building your house wires it correctly, so on and so on. But I think the problem becomes more of who's going to do this. Is it Public Works going to certify people that in the building trades? Is it the legislature's going to set the standards? Who's going to do that? I mean, I think that NM Tech could give some guidance on that, but as far as setting the actual rules of it, I don't think NM Tech has the power to do that, huh? No.
Well, thank you. You're certainly right. Again, part of the statute would be to establish a board and then the board will consist of whoever those members would be. And this is something that the legislature can work with NMTI on, or Department of Labor, because it's kind of the way I look at it is kind of like a double-edged sword. If we put further restrictions or put further safeguards in place, that may deter people from trying to even enter a certain field, but then also it kind of makes it competitive, so that someone who completes a program with NMTI is not competing with somebody that they can get cheaper, that they can train to become someone like an individual who has completed a program at NMTI, if that makes any sense. Ms. Ato, during your time at NMTI, I think even until today, I haven't really seen much progress with pushing the program to Rhode and Tinian. Do you know of any progress or any plans in the near future?
I know there has been some progress, a lot of engagement. I know, I think it was about a year ago, the team went out to both islands to engage with the stakeholders to see what the needs are, and also to see what is the resources available, should they be able to do it there, or find a way where maybe the student has to come here to attend the courses and then can do the work there. I'm not too sure, but I know there's a lot of talk about that, and I know that's definitely not something that that is on the back burner. I know we, always thinking of Tinian and Rhoda is still definitely a priority at NM Tech on how we could serve, because we know those islands definitely also need the same help and support that Saipan is getting to. So yeah, I know there's been some effort, but we could give you an update as to where that's at.
Okay. Do you recall what the tuition rates are, and is that was that subsidized by past CW fees?
There are some tuition rates here that I could share with you if you would like. However, I do know the tuition rates, with the support and assistance of the Northern Marianas Housing, they've also partnered with NM Tech on providing scholarships. And so I know when a student goes into NM Tech, the first thing that the team does is seeing if they're eligible to receive that scholarship to support them with those tuitions. On what was your question about the CW?
Has the CW fees in the past been subsidizing some of the costs of tuition? Because from my understanding, I think if I'm not mistaken, for the current fiscal year, there is kind of like a Department of Labor is still kind of trying to figure out what went wrong with the CW fees, and so there might not be any distribution. And I could be wrong, but I know with NMC, they will not be getting CW fees until Secretary Staffler reconciles past awards. So do you know if the CW fees were subsidizing the tuition rates in the past?
I am not too sure on that.
Okay.
I am not too sure on that, but we could get that information to you.
Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Before I turn over the floor to Senator Magofnia, I have a quick follow-up. You've heard Senator Manglonia mention the year to 2029. And everybody, the entire government has that in their line of sight. And it is because of the Consolidated Natural Resources Act of 2008, which was implemented here in the CNMI in 2009. And basically what the US Congress did was give us a 20-year transition period to start decreasing our dependency on contract workers. And what that law stipulates is that every year we are supposed to decrease, like I said, our number of contract workers. We are so close to that deadline. It is in about 2004, 5 years, give or take, because we're at the end of 2023 right now. And we haven't, NMTech hasn't produced skilled workers quick enough to replace those that have gone already. Departments that are being affected, and private sector companies that are being affected by this touchback rule now that they've implemented. So I'd like to recommend that should you be confirmed, both Mr. Johnson and Ms. Sato, please prioritize that, because we're near the finish line, and like everything else the CNMI government does, they drag their feet until it's at the end of the line, and we got to go and beg the US Congress to extend it. And Delegate Kalili has been doing everything he can to actually grant long-term contract workers who have been here for a number of years permanent status, so that we don't have to continuously worry about the dependency of skilled workers from outside of our Commonwealth, because we haven't developed our own local capacity. So I just wanted to bring that up to your attention, should you be confirmed. I now turn over the floor to Senator Magofnia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson and Ms. Atao. Congratulations again on your nomination, and thank you for accepting it. Senator Manglonia and the chairwoman both have covered quite a lot. And just in going back into the conversation of the different types of programs, right, that may be lacking at NMTI at this point in time, I'm going to be coming to you from the point of view of economic development, because I chair that committee. And there's this huge expectation from everyone on the island to bring the economy back and grow it, and all that. However, there seems to be a gap in that, because there is lack of construction, there's lack of nurses, there's all these lacks, plumbers, electricians, and similar trades that is probably insufficient at this point in time to even accommodate the kind of demands and expectation that our people is expecting of us in order to grow our economy. So, um, what can NMTI do to help bridge that gap? We talk. There's a lot of outside work that is being done under the table by many plumbers, electricians, and the like, right? Just because it's so hard to find businesses that provide that kind of service, and if they are, there's a long wait list uh, to even just get that kind of service from contractors to everyone in that particular pot because of the typhoon, because of the pandemic and all that. So I'm curious. I'm not too familiar with the type of programs or curriculums that NMTI is offering. I've heard about the cosmetology and the hospitality, if I'm not mistaken, right? And like the chefs, the cooking. But what can like the previous areas that I just mentioned are a huge part of our economic development, and without that pool of workers, how can we sustain and grow our economy? If and that's to both of you, if you could answer or share some comments.
When did the first contract worker arrive in Saipan? In the 60s, maybe? I mean, it's been that way since that time, I'm sure. I moved here in 1987, and there's always been a shortage of skilled workers. Personally, I lost 7 people to the touchback, and one of them was my accountant, which is a terrible blow. To me, the fix for the problem is again making trade work, blue collar work, an honorable profession, not a low paid profession, not a lesser thing to do. Where do you start to do that? I mean, is it start in high school? Does it start in junior high school? It doesn't start till they're 18, 19 years old. It starts before that. But a big part of it's pay. I do hire non-resident workers. I have many. They come to work every day. They are generally willing to take on anything you ask them to do. They struggle with language problems, but their willingness overcomes that. I think that your question goes really deep into everything. It's not an easy answer, but again, pay has a lot to do with it. And the stigma of being a tradesperson is not easy to overcome. I mean, that has to be thought of as an honorable and valuable profession. I think what we don't want in the CNMI is trade unions. We do not want trade unions. They do play a role in raising salaries. I certainly understand that. But the other prices that you pay for trade unions are not so healthy. I can't put my finger on how do you fix that problem, but at every level you have to enforce the idea that working with your hands is not a bad thing, and that you're not less than the accountant who never gets their hands dirty. You're not less than the nurse who, doesn't get their hands particularly dirty. Standards are the tool for that, I think. And back to your part, sir. How do you create standards and then enforce the standards so that people entering those fields are only those people who meet those standards? That's certainly the path to take, but it's not a. I don't think it's an NM Tech issue totally. It's a community thing.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your comments. Ms. Atao, did you want to comment?
So if I understand correctly, I know one of the things that we had done when I mentioned about building relationships was really trying to understand the bigger picture, like you said, right? Trying to bridge that gap and understanding why are we having a hard time getting our brothers and sisters in the community to come and enter the workforce, right? I know through Department of Labor, they gave us different statistics of the different reasons why, and a large part of it could be because by them entering into the workforce, it may affect what the benefits they're getting, by being able to, have to for their family, right? And so, and then also it could be maybe the lack of understanding of having available resources, thinking, oh, it's too expensive to go to NM Tech and so forth. So I know one of the things that NM Tech has done recently is they have expanded their services to try and help people. So the moment they come in and they're interested in entering a field, oh, what other ways do you need help so we could keep you here, right? That's kind of our goal, is to keep you here to support you so you finish throughout all the courses. And so I know that that was recently brought on, and so we're definitely doing the best we can. I think the bigger picture behind all of this is how can we get them to come out. The services are there, the resources are there, right? Just how can we get them to come out? And so that's something that we'll need to continue to work on.
Thank you for that, Ms. Sato. And Mr. Johnson, I do understand the concern that you bring about the standards, and also just the expectation or the stigma of a blue collar type of job, right, as an employee. And I think if I may recommend, maybe we can, or NMTA can start a dialogue or a conversation with PSS to see how they can incorporate them, the classes that you guys offer at NMTech at PSS, so that they can offer them to students maybe in high school, maybe start as early as middle school, right? To give exposure to the students and give them the opportunity to experience and determine whether or not that's something that they would be interested in pursuing, after high school. As Senator Babata has mentioned, not college is not for everyone, traditional college, but certainly we have a lot of talented people on our island that are good with their hands. And so that's definitely maybe one of the ways is to change the stigma by offering curriculums such as those in middle school and high school. I know that when I was in middle school, one of the electives that I took was woodworking, and who knew that I would actually enjoy that class, but I learned to make basic coffee table and stuff like that, even though at first I was really apprehensive about it, because like, I'm a girl, I'm not good with my hands. But lo and behold, like, I learned how to measure, do the measurements, cut them, put them together, and so that was definitely something surprising that I experienced that I didn't expect. I also experienced in high school on the mainland, it was a requirement to receive your diploma to take independent living classes. And that class consisted of learning to prepare your own tax return, your 1040 EZ, because that was a necessity when you leave high school and you become an adult and you go get a job, right? We had to learn basic home economics, right? Learn how to cook the basic stuff. We had to learn we were required to take some computer skills so that when we go out into the workforce, we have some knowledge of how to use Word documents and Excel, so just the basic needs of what an adult would start to experience as they leave high school and go into their adult lives. I think that's definitely something that PSS should consider in collaboration with NMTech to see how we can start our youth early and preparing them for whatever they may choose to be, as grown adults. Since your receiving your nomination letters, have you had I know that you were a former board at NMTech, right? But Mr. Johnson, have you had a chance to take a look at the school's current curriculums and programs that they offer? And if you have, is there anything on there that you see that may be lacking that you would like to recommend, to implement?
It would be incredibly premature of me to talk about that. I really don't know enough. I was first nominated for this in, I think, January, and then it was canceled because you couldn't get people for this meeting. Then again, this is actually the third time. That has no bearing on your question. I'm sorry.
Fine.
I don't know enough to say what I think about anything yet,
Okay.
but I do understand that it's not too late, but it's growing to be too late for NMTech to make a difference. As you've spoken about, we're reaching the end of the contract worker program, and we need people, and we don't have a lot of time to do that.
Okay. Ms. Attow, any comments? Here we go. I guess I was saying that since receiving the nomination letter, have you had a chance to take a look at the current programs and curriculums offered at NMTI to see what may be lacking or you would like to see added to the school program?
Of course, my daughter being a student, right? I was excited to know that there was a course, her baking and pastry, that she started, and that's new for this since we became a technical institute. I know there has been definite efforts in receiving data, data that that identifies the needs of where we need, more credentials and more support in the different fields in the NMI. And so right now, I think we are doing the best we can with what we have. I think being able to expand to other different programs, it's just really how can we get people to attend, right? To register and to attend. But everything that you've been asking and so forth, and I see where you're going with and wanting that almost like that end vision, right? I'm excited because I know all these conversations, before my tenure ended, have been under discussion a lot with our CEO and the commissioner of PSS and president of NMC. So I'm really excited, should I be confirmed, to get back to the table to see the progress that has been made, especially now. We're going into the calendar year 2024, right? 5 years away. What can we do to implement our programs internally so it's hands-on for every student thinks differently, even in high school, not even in college, right? We don't have to say college isn't for everyone, but even more so high school, right? High school is challenging. Growing up isn't easy, especially in these times, technology like crazy. And so I think that's why it's even more so important to get our trades into the education systems, so they can build their confidence and also their self-identity in these different fields that could bring them, like a career goal and a dream for them. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And just one last thing, Chair. So we're going to go back to the conversation on standards. And at some point, we're going to have to pick up our standards, right? It's the right thing to do. We need to think first and foremost of the safety of our people, and this is where that certification um, uh, that Senator Manglona has brought up. I think, I mean, I've been thinking about introducing legislation to mandate or require certain professions to get certified, just because if you are dealing with health, or let's say cosmetology, right? Like you're dealing with chemicals and you don't want to go into a salon and come out all bozu. We need to make sure that first and foremost, that the place is safe, right? That they know what they're doing and they know what the consequences are of such actions that they take, but also preventing those liabilities, because we don't want someone to get really hurt by not you want someone who's touching your hair or your eyes when they're putting on your extensions, to be certified and know exactly what they're doing and using the proper products on your skin or your face, right? I know that there's a lot of salons on the island that are probably not certified, and yet we allow them. I'm not trying to discourage um, you know people opening up businesses in those particular fields, but I'm just saying to ensure that we provide safety to our people first and foremost. We need to ensure that they are certified. Just like with a mechanic, you're not going to let some mechanic work on your car without really knowing that he's gone to school for that, because he may do more damage on your car than it is to pay someone a cheap price for that. So definitely something. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think where Senator Donald may be going with that is, if we do consider introducing such legislation where we are requiring certain professions to be certified, is that something that NMTI could facilitate, right? Be the ones to provide the instructions, right? And possibly certify. I don't know. That's definitely a discussion that needs to be had. But I guess we are just trying to look whether or not that's even feasible, right? But we certainly need to pick up the standards. And just like I was thinking, I used to work at CUC, and we have a lot of trades tech there that have gained their experience through hands-on, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I applaud them for the years of service that they've put at CUC and learning all that, through hands-on. But at some point, we're going to have to pick up the standard and expect that they have gone for proper training and schooling in that particular area, because for goodness sake, they're working with electricity. God forbid, we don't want anything to happen to them. So we want to make sure that they are properly trained and educated. And I don't know if CUC has had conversations with NMTech to see if maybe that's something that NMTech could provide as part of their curriculum, so that their trades tech could be properly trained and educated, and they could be certified. And that's even better for EPA, right? Because then now they know that the technicians that are working on the power poles, or whether they're water technicians, are trained properly and they're certified. So I guess that's where I was going, just trying to see if maybe NMTech um, would be able to assist in facilitating those courses or certifications at the school. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And I think, education nowadays, you see it in several different in universities where they offer graduate programs, bachelor's degree or whatever it is, based on your experience, right? You have X amount of experience. If you could prove to me that you have the knowledge and skills and ability to pass, course 101, 205, 30, all the way it is test out of it properly, right? And then you get your degree, then, of course you'll get that certification. And so I see where you're going with that, where, and I think that's something that we definitely could take back to our technical team and see what would that look like, because I think especially nowadays, I think CNMI is definitely a you know a great place to start with. We have so many people that have been in the construction field for 15 years but didn't get that degree, right? So being able to possibly be that place where they could come and get that certification. On how it's enforced and how it'd be regulated, I think it may have to start, how did they open up to begin with, right? Is that going through getting a business license through Department of Commerce, right? Would they have to be the one to be like, show me your credentials or whatever it may be? I don't know how that would be. That's something for you guys to think about. But I think it's definitely something that maybe NM Tech could be a partner to on that certification side for pre-experienced in those fields. Yeah.
I would have to agree with you. I know that there are some businesses that, I mean, it's that easy to go get a license here in the CNMI. You don't even have to show proof of anything.
Yeah.
You could open up a business and say
Yes.
you're opening an accounting service and not have to show any certifications or any, any credentials that you may have had. So it's really that easy to open up a business here. Where I'm going with this is that we really do need to start picking up the standards when it comes to professionalism. In the States, there's a cosmetology school for people that do haircuts. Like, they cannot even work in a salon
Yeah.
without having those certifications, right? Even on skincare,
Yeah.
like, they literally have to go through all these schooling and training. So that's definitely something, a direction that I'm taking. And at some point, I'm kind of just gauging how things are here, because here in the cinema, it's so lax, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But we also have to think about the other side of the coin, where people have gotten hurt because people who open up business without really having the proper training and education are just testing our people as guinea pigs to learn and gain experience. So we want to avoid that, and we want people to start being responsible and accountable for the services that they provide, most especially in those types of professions. So that's all I have, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Atto and Mr. Johnson, for coming in.
Thank you. I just have a couple of comments, no questions. One, I wanted to give you guys a heads up. I was reading the citizen-centric report, and NM Tech relies heavily, or not heavily, but it's a significant part of their budget is the compact impact funds. Just for your information, there are no compact impact funds coming to the CNMI for this fiscal year. That is controlled by the United States Congress, and we did not get any funds for compact impact funds in the FY24. NM Tech receives about 220,000 from compact impact funds. And just another comment, we talk about the correlation between PSS and NM Tech and other educational institutions. And I think, because NM Tech is a trade school, and PSS is simply, I think, following the mandates given to them by the U.S. Department of Education. And as we know, PSS is gradually, or has been, adapting to a more technological world, whereas the two don't necessarily meet. They're on parallel lanes, but they don't necessarily cross, in that sense that PSS is adapting to technology and digital based curriculum, and trying to prepare students as if they were going to college. and not considering the fact that there are some who, a lot probably, who will not be going to college because that's not their passion. So I just wanted to put that seed in your mind to consider that, and hopefully NM Tech can reconcile that with either NMC or PSS, because I think there will be a great disconnect in how your discussions may go. That's all I have for this afternoon. I will recognize Senator Donald Manglonia for the second round.
Thank you, Chair. Just some closing thoughts. Earlier, Senator Magofnia mentioned, more exposure, and I think this is where NMTI should, continue this partnership with PSS and try to bring some of these lessons into the classroom. I remember when I was in high school, NMC had several programs where when a student graduates, they either have some college credits or at least their AA upon graduation. And so it's kind of like fast tracking the students to get certification upon graduation from high school. And then once they graduate, they can work on their next level. I know, and so at least with Rhoda, a lot of it has to do with exposure, being exposed to these different trades. My sister was a culinary arts teacher on Rhoda, and so they saw a lot of interest as soon as they saw what she does. And so the school ended up opening a student store, and the students were the ones preparing the food, selling it, showing the business aspect of owning a business and maybe owning a restaurant. And so I took an automotive course in high school. I learned a lot in terms of changing tires, batteries, etc. And so a lot of this, again, deals with just exposing them to the different professions. So that way it may spark an interest or two. And so students can start working on that level of certification. Another recommendation that I hope the board can consider, and I don't know if this is being done, is maybe be creative in the sense of working with the businesses. I think Ms. Ato, you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, so maybe having that discussions with businesses. I know whenever they try to bring in CW, they advertise these positions, but and I don't know if this can be done, but maybe guarantee a spot so that it can be competitive within the classroom and say, at the end of this program, there's 2 positions open at the water company that, whoever gets certification in this particular field can compete for this job. So that kind of gives the students the assurance that, there is a need for this job, as well as there is an opportunity once they complete the program to get that position. And so it's working with the businesses in the sense of seeing what's available for the students that are currently in the program, and assuring them that once they complete, there's that security that they will have a job once they complete the program. And so again, going back, it's high school right now in today's world, Gen Z, right? It's all about the cell phone. And so a lot of them learn how to do stuff off of TikTok or, all these other stuff. And so just having a presence in the classroom, whether it be in plumbing or construction or woodwork, that already sparks their interest in wanting to enter the trades field if they know they can't, if they know college is not for them or the military. And so those are just some thoughts. I do chair the education committee as well. And so I hope once the board is complete, I know we're also going to be having a hearing for a Rhoda nominee pretty soon. And so I hope that once everyone gets settled and acquainted, then we'll work more towards some of these discussions that were brought up today. And so at least those are some things that the board can start considering. So thank you. I yield, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Manglonia. At this time, we have no further questions for either candidate. And so we thank you for your time coming in here and having this discussion with us. And we now dismiss both candidates. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
We will move on to miscellaneous on the agenda. Are there any miscellaneous items that need to be taken up at this time? If there are none, recognize Senator Donald Mangonia for the proper motion to adjourn today's
I
meeting.
move to adjourn this today's committee meeting.
Thank you. A motion has been made and it has been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Today's agenda is hereby adjourned. It is now 3:35 p.m.